Bitcoin has seen a sizable rally over the weekend that's continuing today. Now, based on historical Fibonacci time frames, September 29th for this year was marked to be the end of the bull run for Bitcoin. So I have a quick question for all of you watching today. Do you believe that the market will continue higher as we enter Q4 of this year, or do you think that we are about to start a bear market here in crypto at least? Be sure to drop the word bull down below if you're bullish, or the word bear down below if you're bearish in the comments. It really helps me to gauge the audience and also pushes these videos out to more people like us. And with that being said, we'll be doing a full breakdown on Bitcoin and more in today's video. My name is Paul Sampson. Welcome back to DataDash. Now, let me ask you this. Have you ever needed extra cash but did not want to sell your Bitcoin? Maybe it was to pay off a credit card, put a down payment on a property, or just to cover some unexpected expenses. That's exactly where LeDn's Bitcoin-backed loans come in. So instead of selling your Bitcoin, you can actually borrow against your Bitcoin, meaning you still hold your position and potential upside while unlocking real-world liquidity today. I like this because it's straightforward, no gimmicks, just a smart way to access funds without giving up your long-term strategy. Check out the link down in the description below if you want to see how their Bitcoin-backed loans work today. All right, folks, right into the meat and potatoes as we start the video here. Now, I was having a little fun today in the Discord, as many of you may have known if you're in there, or even from the previous videos we were looking for, but I was looking for a sizable bounce from basically this region down here, right? And this is just a really, good example of why sometimes you may want to stack your orders at times. A lot of times I don't love to do that because it can just really, hurt your entry overall. But in this case, it's one of those times where I got my entry missed by just a little bit, by $400 essentially, and about a 0.36 difference there. So this was just a short-term move, of course, not necessarily a high time frame, buy and hold area I was looking for, but was looking for this area to offer up a sizable bounce to the upside. Where that upside goes is the question. Now, a zoomed out approach here, and Bitcoin's pretty much just range bound where we've been for the last several weeks here, right? So how I would be utilizing the current information here is in a few different ways here, right? So if you've been following me for a bit, you know that I look to, harmonic patterns a lot of times, and those are sequence of Fibonacci's that we've seen time and time again. And if you're interested in learning how I utilize and find these harmonic setups, I just put out one of the most demanded academy videos. This is where I teach everybody exactly my schematic, all my tools and resources that I utilize to build these charts out and identify these key areas. But the number one was our shark harmonic. This is the hands down number one setup in the last few years. I just added a video on how I utilize this. Again, this is created by the harmonic trader himself. I do not own the rights to these, but I did create just a little bit of a review on how I utilize these setups, as well as a cheat sheet put together with the information as well. Now, I bring that up because even though we are trading at the highs here, one thing I'm always going to look for, especially when we get this right here and you get a pullback, a lot of times this is where many will start to look for the idea of like an ABC correction, which by all means, should be something we want to look for. But as long as we're holding this region right here, I feel that there is potential for a harmonic setup here. And in this case, this is known as the crab, which by no means is this something you can trade off of or utilize quite yet. This is something that we have to anticipate for now. And then when we come up to the completion zone, that's when we can actually utilize this appropriately. But for now, while we're holding these, currently this higher low, this, run up to basically right at a gold pocket and a pullback, this is what I'm anticipating here for Bitcoin, to see if we push up into these areas, and we could push up to something along that line, in a really quick fashion here, especially because it is the end of this time frame that I mentioned earlier, that September 29th, and I'm going to highlight that just a little bit. I've covered it a little more in detail in a few videos in the past about the 4-year cycle theory. So if you want to check that out, it's like 20 minutes long. But we'll take a look at that because today is a macro day essentially. But I want to kind of keep it more in the macro outlook here. So let's kind of keep to our tradition there for our Monday videos. If we're just really zooming out here, nothing is broken at the moment. All right. And we're still holding these overall uptrends here. We have, if we go over to our friend HODL15 Capital over on X, he showcases that the ETF purchases still continue to rise here. Okay, again, this is since basically the beginning of our Bitcoin ETF launch in January of 2024. These are quarterly reportings along the way. Currently, we're at the end of Q3 here for the year of 2025. So we're kind of doing, you'll see just little monthly add-ons here until the quarter closes. And then it'll go from most likely 6 to 9. But yeah, you can see here that we still are steadily increasing overall ETF exposure into the Bitcoin market as we're approaching this end of the year here, right? Now, fear and greed, something that just before the weekend, we were in extreme fear. I couldn't even get the update for it there. But we are now sitting back in neutral, which is pretty good. Honestly, I like neutral more than anything. Because it really does just kind of showcase that we have potential for either way. So it just all goes down to what the setup at hand is at the moment. It actually is a little interesting here that we are in neutral as we're pushing up so heavily, but I only say that because this, looks like a heavier push to the upside, but just because we pretty much just flatlined for a couple of days here. But overall, I think that we could still see some more upside here. Okay. So my macro setup that I've had, I have two reasons behind this September timeframe. Okay. And then one of them, which is this smaller AB equals CD setup, which is, to be fair, a bearish setup upon completion. All right. So whether or not we've already completed it at 125 a couple weeks back, or if we get a random crazy candle as we close out September, maybe right into the beginning of October, right? Everybody's going to look at it as Uptober type of deal. This is the time frame that I've been looking to. And essentially this is based off of fib time, again, measuring as far as how long it took us to put in A to B, projected it off C. That gives us this for just a really, really symmetrical setup, which these patterns are, the strongest when they are perfectly symmetrical as that. And a lot of times we will see that. So it doesn't have to be, and it's not perfect by any means. And also I state back to the fact that, I was targeting this region when we were trading into, $74,000 basically. If we have put in the high already, this was, 1 month before and about $5,000 or 6%. Outside of that box, right? It's close enough as it is, but I'm interested to see how we end this month because that time frame is big just for this overall setup here. But the biggest setup here is the overall bull market fib time, where again, we were looking back last year where we were trading into the gold pocket in time. So very similar to how you can utilize Fibonacci retracements for price action to the upside, to the downside. You can actually project time pivots where it's likely we're going to see a pivot in the price action, right? So we were trading into this gold pocket, and generally in the past that has led to the a sideways period and then the last leg of the market to the upside. Okay, you can see that in both these previous examples here, where 2016 gold pocket in time, sideways price action up to the overall high of the market, gold pocket in time 2020. This one was a little bit more of an aggressive time frame, but overall once we got out of it, upside to the top of the market, and then we hit that gold pocket in time here once again. That was last year. The 1-to-1 generally meaning that is where the completion zone of a move is likely to occur. It sits right at where we are now, the week of September 29th of 2025. Just to showcase what has occurred on other 1-to-1s in this market, where again, we're looking at some, potential, either we're coming into this region and we figure out which way we're going to go from here, or we actually see a sizable rally to kind of pop us off just for a little bit. At the end of the day too, folks, I'm not looking at this to be the end of the bull run in crypto, because I do have a little bit of a different thesis based on the 20-year cycle this time around. But regardless, it has got to be said that we are at a pivotal moment that's, in the past, this has always led to the end of the bull run, right? Now, our last 1-to-1 basically came in again, completion zone realistically. And you can even see here, it was actually on a weekly time frame, we actually topped out the next week after. So again, it doesn't have to be perfect. But this was basically 2021, $69,000 high before we had the overall bear market down into 2022. So last high was literally 1 to 2 weeks around that 1-to-1. We can even take this and move it over to finding lows as well, because we're projecting that off of the high side now. So the 1-to-1 that is most notable compared to where we are now, which is the last one that has occurred, happened on the week of Halloween 2022, or the first week of November, where, if you recall, FTX collapsed, right? So we had a really big drop right there, which ended up being the low for crypto. So these 1-to-1s in time are really big deals. Again, you just saw a couple examples where it doesn't necessarily have to be the exact week. So for me, I'm being really vigilant around this time frame. If you're in the group, my theory on what the market is likely to do in the next few months here. So, but aside from that, I am still looking for a little bit more upside here. I got to, you got to cautiously be aware of that though, right? Because we were in some, it's like almost trying to come in at the end of a move, right? So Bitcoin just went from 15,000 to 125,000, and trying to be aggressive here at the end, where yes, we could see some sizable moves in the altcoins again. You just have to be vigilant. That really is just what it comes down to. We're at a pivotal moment where we could see the next sizable pullback again, where at least 30% pullback on Bitcoin, I think, is likely to occur in the next few months. Let's just say we get a push up this week or next into potentially even a new high. What happens at that point? Well, we walk into October. Everybody thinks that October is here. Q4 has to be explosive. That's a really good trap to get people just locked in to again, just seeing everything just get wiped, right? So by no means do I know that that's going to occur, but if I had to start lining up things on the docket, this is what I'm anticipating, is that we're in a realm where a sizable correction is likely to occur in the next few weeks, months here. Okay. Does that become a full blown 1 year bear market? I don't know that. I don't lean that way. Like, again, I think that we'll see more so just what we have been seeing over the past year or two here and the entire rally up, which is things along these lines, right? Where you get this like slow sideways consolidation. Granted, it is slowing down, right? So it makes it gives it enough time and anger for everybody to get really arguey, right? So everybody will start arguing, saying that the bear market is here and all this stuff, just like we did over here before we popped up, to the brand new all-time high back in June of 2023. We had that sideways consolidation, this sideways consolidation, this sideways consolidation. Again, it's sideways and down, so don't think that it won't be painful for a bit. But that's kind of where my eyes and my mind is. Even if we did pop up here in the next week or so, that we'd probably get another couple months just sideways and down. I really like the 80s, the $80,000 window. And then from there, I think we might, continue on from there. So that's the overall big picture here. Nothing's really changing again as far as the ETF inflows. The major institutions are still picking up Bitcoin even in these times right here as we're coming into the some high levels here. Fear and greed at the moment really doesn't give us too much of an indication. If we were to flip this into extreme greed in the next couple of days, the reason I think that would only occur is if the altcoins really start popping. Ethereum pushes back up to all-time high, stuff like that. But overall, yeah, I'm really interested to see how this week turns out. Again, make sure you put down in the comments if you're bullish or bearish on the next few weeks and months here in crypto. That's going to wrap it up for today's Bitcoin update. And remember, folks, whether we're in the late stages of this cycle or just gearing up for the next leg higher, the key is to just stay disciplined, manage your risk, and think long term. If you found today's breakdown helpful at all, folks, please be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Don't miss out on future updates here on DataDash. And a quick thank you to our channel partner, LeDn, trusted platform where you can earn interest on your Bitcoin and stable coins or access loans without having to sell your crypto. You can find the link down below if you'd like to check them out. As always, folks, stay safe out there. I'll see you on the next video. And until then, everybody, cheers.